Hi, I'm John McQuiston. As more people shoot video productions with smaller cameras that can produce sparkling 4K video, Sony has come out with a power zoom lens designed with HD and even ultra-high definition video in mind. The Sony FE PZ 28 to 135mm f4 G OSS lens works with any Sony E-mount camera, including those with full frame and APS-C sensor sizes, and I tested it using the Sony A7S mirrorless camera. We'll go over that power zoom and see how well that works and how quietly it works. We'll look at the physical features of the lens, the specs, and how well it's built. Finally, and most important, we'll see how good the video looks when you use it. That power zoom really distinguishes this lens, so I'll start with that. Make sure the zoom switch on the lens is on servo. Then you can zoom in or out with your left thumb as you hold the camera. The servo zoom has 8 speeds, and you vary the speed by how hard you push the control. But even pressed all the way, it doesn't move super fast. You can turn the power zoom off. Just move the zoom switch from servo to manual. The manual zoom has a slight delay both when you start and stop a zoom. So you start turning the zoom ring, and then a moment later, you see the zoom start. So if you need to zoom while recording video, you'll probably use the power zoom. And I liked it. When I use a zoom, I need one that will give me the kind of precise and steady speed that I really struggle to get with a DSLR lens because they're not designed for that. This one is. Beyond the convenience of the power zoom is the quiet. One thing many cinematographers want when they shoot, especially anything journalistic where you need to record the ambient sound and can't just dub it in later in post, is for the camera and the lens not to make noise. Yes, on bigger productions you'll have a sound operator with a separate audio recorder, but if you work by yourself, sometimes you will need to record audio in the camera. Both the power zoom and the focusing on this lens are next to silent. You just do not hear them. Sony says that's because of the supersonic wave motor that powers the zoom and the weight reduction of the focus element group and use of a linear motor for focusing. I just know that I don't hear anything. The lens has a focal length range of 28 to 135mm. Its iris opens to f4 throughout the zoom range. Remember, iris is what you call aperture on a video lens. The one on this lens has 9 blades and will give you a nice soft background when it's open to f4. The lens has rings to manually control the iris, focus, and zoom. You can reach all of them easily when you shoot handheld. The manual zoom ring won't let you zoom very fast, so you won't do any snap zooms with this lens. The focus ring slides forward or away from the camera to switch between full manual and autofocus. This is a huge convenience because normally with the Sony A7S, you have to go into menus to change the focus mode. But slide the focus ring toward the camera for MF, and that changes the setting in the camera menu to manual focus automatically. Slide it to AF, and it changes the menu setting to continuous autofocus. I did accidentally slide this one back to manual focus at least once, so if you get this lens and wonder why it won't autofocus, check to see that the ring is in the right position. The lens works with the A7S's lens compensation that lets the camera compensate for shading and chromatic aberration. Also helping with that is what Sony calls super extra low dispersion glass in the lens that Sony says dramatically cuts down on chromatic aberration, especially when you're zoomed in all the way. If you use manual focus, the camera has a focus assist that magnifies the frame in the viewfinder or LCD so you can get your focus more easily. You can also turn on focus peaking in the camera, and that helped me a lot when I used manual focus. Autofocus works well, even when tracking objects, if you have enough light. I did some tests outside, zooming in on things as they moved, and the focus had no trouble, even as I panned to follow them. It does have to hunt for focus more if you use it in lower light situations. The iris ring will let you put the iris into auto or adjust from f4 to f22 and will click into place on each f-stop setting. You can turn off the clicks with a switch on the lens labeled, amazingly enough, the click switch. This gives you a smoother iris opening and closing. But it's not completely seamless, so you can notice the steps if you change the iris setting while you record. You can lock the iris into place with the lock switch. You do have to have the click switch on for this to work. The tripod collar moves easily to let you switch between landscape and portrait orientation if you shoot still photos. The tripod collar also comes off with no trouble when you untwist the knob and release the clasp. I'd leave that on unless I needed to make the lens smaller to fit into a camera bag. It gives me a good base to rest the camera in my hand, and I can still reach all the controls easily. The lens has an optical image stabilizer, and when you put the lens on a camera, that disables the in-camera steady shot function that many Sony cameras have. So you never have to worry about two stabilizers dueling with each other and messing up your image. The lens has only this tiny line to help you put the lens hood on, so you might have to look closely for that mark the first time you use it. The hood also has a release button you press to take it off. The lens hood has its own cap, and Sony seems to have designed the lens to spend most of its time with the hood on because the included lens cap, and I'm not kidding about this, looks and feels just like the lid for a fountain drink cup you get at a fast food restaurant. Sony includes a bag that is big enough to store the lens with the hood on. If they made the bag just a few inches deeper, with a camera as slim as the Sony A7S, you could store the lens with the camera on it in the bag too. The lens weighs a little more than 2.5 pounds, and it has a solid feel and heft. The iris ring is made of the same material as the lens exterior. The zoom and focus rings are rubber, and they work well with your hands, but I would wonder about their durability over time. All right, so how do the images look? I like them a lot. The video is crisp and clear, and shooting at f4, I got the great shallow depth of field you'd get from a DSLR lens, but I also had the power zoom to give me smooth moves into and out of my subjects. I did have a few occasions where the autofocus had trouble, which you'd expect sometimes when you shoot moving subjects with a shallow depth of field. But it was easy to slide the focus ring to manual and go with that. Sony's electronic viewfinder also helped me because I could see what I was trying to shoot, including my focus peaking, no matter how bright the light was in my environment. Overall, for what it can do and for what it costs, I think this Sony Power Zoom lens will prove really popular. For B&H and Kelby One, I'm John McQuiston. Thanks for watching.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.
We all know the difference a great teacher makes. They inspire you, challenge you, and push you to do the things you never thought you could. For creatives, that means you've got to know your tools inside and out, whether it's Photoshop or photography, lighting or Lightroom, InDesign or After Effects. And while there are free videos out there, you have to watch 30 bad ones just to find a decent one. And a lot of times, the techniques are either outdated, complicated, or just plain wrong. What we need is a better way to learn. One that connects amazing teachers with creative people all over the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A thriving educational community with nothing but the most talented, engaging, and respected teachers in the industry. Then we simplify the whole learning process with short, clear, concise classes. That's exactly what we've created for you right here at Kelby One.